Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm really excited to have my Robyn here. Robyn, thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a little different, and I'm excited about that. So thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me, Anna. I'm super excited to share and add value to your listeners.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. This is going to be great. Okay, so Robyn, this is a question I ask everybody. Where in the world are you coming from? Where in the country are you?
Yes, I am coming. I love that question. I'm coming from Orlando, Florida, where the sun shines.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I was there last week, and it was freezing.
Yeah, we're going through a cold spell right now.
I did not expect that. I was frozen like a popsicle. So but the day we left, it was a beautiful day. It's beautiful there.
Is that always how it happens?
Yeah, it totally It figures. So have you always been in Orlando or?
I have not. So originally I grew up in Rhode Island.
Okay.
In a small town on the ocean. And then I made my way down to Virginia for over 20 years outside Washington, D.C. And then 2.5 years ago, we moved down to Orlando, Florida. We always knew we'd end up in Florida. We just didn't know where in Florida and when. And when we got here, we arrived.
Wow. So did you travel a lot down to Florida? Is that why you decided that's where you're going to end up?
Yeah. So
like one of your vacation spots? My
grandmother, called my Nana, she moved down from the north. She moved down to Sarasota, Florida. And so growing up, I came down to Sarasota on all my breaks. And she and I were very, very close. She's the one I dedicated my book to that we'll get into later, I'm sure. But I just always knew that when I came here, I was happy. The sun made me feel good. I'm a beach bum. I grew up in Rhode Island on the ocean. And I just have such great memories of Florida. And so I knew I always wanted to live here.
Yeah. Oh, and now you're out of the, winter cold. I'm sure you're happy about that.
Yes, for sure. If I never see snow again, I'm good.
Yeah. You're one of those. You're like, been there, done that.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of go back into your background. What did you aspire to be when you grew up? I mean, I always ask this to nurses, when did you decide to be a nurse? Like, what was your aspiration when you grew up? Because I know mine on paper was, but I don't remember, and it was simply a nurse. And I said, there's no way I wanted to be a nurse when I was a kid, but apparently I did. What was that for you?
When I was younger, I always wanted to be a teacher. I was close with a few of my teachers in elementary school. And back in the day, I'm going to age myself, but back in the day, they had these books, right? Nothing was online. And so at the end of the school year, they would give them to me because they would get new ones for the new school year with the new curriculum. And I would go home, and my dad built me the schoolhouse in the backyard. And it was like this super cute cabin. And I had a desk, and I had a chalkboard, and I would teach my students, which were my stuffed animals.
Yeah.
And they learned a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. And then I realized as I got a little bit older that maybe I don't want to be teaching in the traditional sense of being a teacher in the classroom, but I always wanted to add value and help others grow. And how I turn that into is marketing and advertising. Because I love being behind a brand, and really, when you love something, you're able to sell it. And it's kind of like when you watch your favorite movie, Anna, and you tell everybody about it, right?
Totally.
That's the feeling I get when what I do now, which is not what I thought I'd end up doing. So I started in advertising and marketing, and I always thought I would just climb the corporate ladder.
Right.
And so I'll leave it at that for now, as I'm sure you have.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I totally agree. Yeah, it's like when you love something, you're gonna talk about it forever. And that's actually, it's funny. The first thing I thought of when it comes to that is my background before this was in network marketing, and network marketing is by far a see it and tell everybody about it because you're so excited about it. And that's how you become successful. So when you're excited about something, it's very easy to sell it. So marketing was your background. And then so did you go down that corporate road? And I
did. I went into advertising first because I was always told by my mentors, you got to be on the agency side first before you go in-house and do the marketing so you can understand part of the pieces of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So I did advertising for all of 3 months. I realized I hated it. I hated every single minute of it. Isn't that funny, right? You think you know something until you're actually in it. And then I transitioned straight to marketing, so in-house marketing, and I really did like that. But what I realized is that, climbing the corporate ladder was not for me. It was cutthroat, especially with agency and marketing corporate. It was just very cutthroat, and I wasn't serving. And my heart wanted to serve and add value. I was really good at what I was doing, and I progressed really well, but my heart wasn't in it. So at the age of 27, I became an entrepreneur, and I went independent, and I did consulting. And I'm here 20, something years later, and 21 years later, and I am still consulting. And I love that aspect of it, Anna, because I get to work with so many different people, and I add value to their lives every single day, whether it's marketing, advertising, branding, thriving in life, going from exhausted to energized, overcoming trauma, whatever it is, it's my heart work. And so I found kind of cultivated what I thought I wanted into exactly what I wanted, because reality isn't always what it's cracked up to be.
Tell me a little bit more about when you decided to become an entrepreneur, because this is a podcast geared towards nurses who are entrepreneurs, and making that leap from being an employee to an entrepreneur is a really scary big step. So for you, when you made that leap many years ago, what did you have that, like, I'm just going to jump in with both, figure it out? Or did you have a mentor? Or what did that transition look like to you?
Sure, that's a great question, because it is a big step, right? And sometimes there's not consistent income coming in, and you have to be able to pay your bills, right? Yeah. But you also get to be happy every day. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur. Both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. So it was in my blood. My brother's an entrepreneur. And so it really was figuring out first, what did I want to do as an entrepreneur? So that's step number one. And then step number two is putting a plan into place. And step number three was finding a mentor that had what I wanted, that was a few steps ahead of me, that could guide me to success and to thrive. So that's the three steps that I did in order to get to making that decision that I'm leaving my corporate job, I'm going to be okay, and the mindset around that, and being okay with, if it doesn't work, it's what's the lesson in what I've learned in order to get to the next step.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, preaching to the choir. Yeah, I like everything. I resonate with everything that you say. Okay, so when you made that leap and you decided to go into entrepreneurship, what was your first? Who was your first client? What kind of business did you first start? And then we can talk about like how you've ended up where you're at now. So what did that very first step look like? Who was that?
So my very first client was a nonprofit. I came from corporate to nonprofit to entrepreneurship. So I just want to plug that so you can understand. And so what I did was, and this was back in the day when everything was on paper, I looked for ads in the paper for advertising and marketing consultants, full-time jobs. They weren't contract jobs or consulting jobs. And what I did was I pitched myself, right? I was in sales. I knew how to do that. right? And taking the leap, for your listeners in nursing, you have skill sets that you can use outside of what you're currently doing because they're yours. They don't belong to the company or the hospital or whomever you're working for, right, Anna? So I took my skills and I put them to work, and I applied as if I was going for a full-time in-house position. And once I got into the interview, sold myself. Because I knew that when I connected with the people that I'd be working with from my heart and not just on paper from my resume,
right.
I got
Right. Okay, so you knew you could sell yourself, and you were sold, and you knew that entrepreneurship was for you. What did the last 20 years look like for you? I mean, did you stay on the same path? Did you change your path? Was your audience, your clients, were they all different? Tell me a bit about that journey.
So it was definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Entrepreneurship is, right? Yeah. So that's what entrepreneurship is. And when you actually realize that, that's the key, right? Because you don't have to stay where you are. You are your boss. You are in control of your situation, right? Just like I was mentioning prior, I went in and applied for a full-time job, but I came out as a consultant because I sold them on who I am and the value I bring and how much more it would benefit them for me to be a consultant versus being an in-house employee, right? So I did advertising sales for years. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it, really good at it. And then, economies change, business plans change. And then they start bringing everybody in-house again. And that wasn't for me. So what I did was I said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? So I leaned in and I found a mentor that had what I wanted. And interesting that you said you come from the network marketing world. So do I. I found network marketing at a time where people weren't hiring consultants, right? Outside help. And so I used my skills in sales and marketing, and I learned a new skill of online marketing, and I put it all together because my mentor had what I wanted, and she was traveling across the country, speaking on stages, super healthy mom of 4 kids. And, I wanted to do competitions. I wanted to understand nutrition and fitness. And I made it to the top 5% in 15 months, which is on. And because, like you said, you just tell everybody what you're doing because it's working. And, depending on what the product is, there could be visible results as well. And in my case, there were. Sure.
We have a very similar story, just so you know. Mine was also in health and fitness. So, and yes, reaching that top was quite rewarding. It took me a little bit longer than that, but it's interesting that you say that. And I don't know. I honestly don't have any sales in my background. I don't have any marketing in my background. I just, like you said, I found someone that was a few steps ahead of me that they were my mentor, and I just wanted what they had. And I wasn't afraid to fail. I wasn't afraid to put myself out there. And I just continued to learn and get better and get better. So it is funny that it's funny that we have a very similar path.
Yes, for sure.
I didn't have any business doing it, but I figured it out. And I don't know, I could say that I learned, online marketing. I ended up using it later in teaching online marketing. So, I love that we have a very similar path. Okay. So health and fitness, and you had results, and you were obviously helping others because that's what the, framework is, that you're helping others reach those goals. And how long ago was that trajectory for you?
So I started. Give me 1 second. I have to do the math.
I know. Is it mom math? Is it? Yeah, I know.
So probably about 10 years ago is when I started network marketing. And, here's the thing, Anna, I still do network marketing, but it's not my main source of work, but it is a stream of income. And that's a key factor also for your listeners to understand about entrepreneurship, is having multiple streams of income. Because when you build a business and then it starts working for you, you can move on to something else that interests you or where your heart is going. If you choose, you don't have to, you can still stay where you want, but entrepreneurship allows you to do that. And so for the past 2.5 years, I ventured into online coaching, and I used my skills and knowledge from network marketing to catapult that. And so that's where I am today. And I do online coaching in the for LinkedIn on that space for marketing and branding. I also do online coaching for life coaching to go from exhausted to energized. And I also wrote a best-selling book last November, which is really exciting, that I never thought I'd be doing. So it's quite a journey.
Tell us more about that. Tell us more about your, I always said I was going to write a book, but I never did. Tell us more about the fact that you decided to write, tell us that story of how you decided to write the book, why you decided to write the book on the topic that you did, and a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I never thought I'd write a book. I'm not an avid reader. I had trouble reading in school. And so I made a decision last year. It was in March, I remember. I started connecting with a lot of people on LinkedIn, and they all had books. They were all authors. And I'm thinking, maybe this is a sign. So I always wanted to get my story into the hands of more people. And I'm one person, right? So a great way to do that is by publishing a book, sharing my story and how I went from exhausted to energized, 90 days to your best self, because there's actionable steps that I can teach people. I'm really good at taking the big picture and breaking it down into small, micro, manageable steps that you can do daily to achieve your goal, because it's the small daily wins that get us to the bigger goal. And I decided to write this book because about 10 years ago as well, I was trying to get pregnant with my second child and I couldn't. And so I went to a specialist and I went in for blood work for that. And I came out diagnosed with something else, which is an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's, which is your thyroid and hypothyroidism and other multiple health issues. Thought my life was over. I didn't know what to do. And it was doctor after doctor after doctor. And I didn't have any symptoms because autoimmune disease typically are silent diseases. You're not diagnosed right away. And so I went through a 2.5-year period of getting sicker and sicker and sicker because the doctors kept feeding me medication that I didn't know until later I was allergic to. But my blood work was getting better. But I had to stop working. I had brain fog. I would collapse if I started to work out. I couldn't get out of bed for 10 to 12 hours. My hair was falling out. My nails were falling off. I couldn't take care of my toddler. I'd be driving and end up at a grocery store. I thought I was going to Target, like totally not living, just existing. And so I said, you know what, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that's when I found network marketing, which literally the products and the mentorship saved my life, as well as my life coach. She literally turned my life around. And I also turned my life around. So for listeners, if you are listening to this right now and you're thinking, I'm stuck, what do I do? It's meant to be, it's up to you, right? If it's meant to be, it's up to me. You have power, you have control. You can figure things out just like anybody else. You have everything inside of you. And so I did that. And I figured out my nutrition. I figured out my fitness. I figured out having accountability. I figured out how to change my mindset as a model of positive change. And I figured out what medication to take, what supplements to take. And so that's how I got into the coaching that I did with network marketing, as well as what I'm doing now. And so my book is called Exhausted to Energized because it walks you through 4 different stages of how to overcome your exhaustion, your pain, your trauma, your childhood, whatever you're going through, burnout, and be able to thrive in life. And so I just wanted to give that message and tools to other people so they can thrive and as much as I am.
Yeah. And obviously community audience to this podcast are nurses and attorneys and physicians, but mostly nurses. And a topic that comes up often in the podcast is this thing called COVID. And we had gone through this COVID, and we exhausted ourselves. It comes up every single episode in just how crazy that time was for the nursing profession. And now, it's just so strange to say years later, there are so many exhausted, burnt out nurses. And that is actually why many of them are seeking, why not go into legal nurse consulting? Because it's a different avenue. It's an entrepreneurship. It's a different avenue to use our nursing skills because we're exhausted and burnt out. So you're definitely speaking to the right community in, feeling that way. If you were to give, let's just say, a nurse that's been a nurse for, we'll just say 10 years, and she's really just beat. She's trying to decide what that next level is, but she's too exhausted and she doesn't know if you just met this nurse on the street, what would be your advice? You're just like, okay, here's what you do first. What would that first step be for someone like that? What would you tell them?
That's a great question. And I'm going to answer that in just a moment, because I just want to preface with, I meet people like this every day.
Sure.
And I work with a lot of nurses, and they're just too exhausted to even think what they could possibly do next or do instead of what they're doing, right?
Right.
So to answer your question, Anna, the first advice I would give is lean in with self-care, right? Self-care is not selfish, it's necessary. So find one thing you can do daily, going back to the micro things you can do, right? One micro step. One thing you can do is that drink enough water. Is that go for a walk on your lunch break. Is that sit outside in the sunshine for 5 minutes. Simple things. Doesn't cost any money. Right? It's just leaning into you so you can be a better person. That's the first thing I would suggest. That advice, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. It's true, and it goes a long way. But also, I would add to that is recognizing when you do that, right? Like, it's very easy to say, I'm going to go outside for a walk. And you come back in, you're back to being exhausted. But if you recognize the fact that you just did that, basically giving yourself a pat on the back, it sticks with you. And then you're creating, I'm sure, habits, and the more you do that, the more, I'm just guessing, the more energy you have to do the next step, right? And that's what your idea of these micro steps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I want to add to what you said, Anna, because I think it's so important what you said, to congratulate yourself. And I call it awareness. So have awareness for what you're going through and where you're at. And also have the awareness, like what you said, that you did something good for yourself. Right. And that's what's going to give you the energy. Yeah. So then when you are feeling like that again, like the yuck, you have the awareness and the mindset around, I need to step outside in the sunshine for 5 minutes, or I need to go
right.
Because you know what's happening and you know how to change it in the moment.
Right. And I think it's also important, and why you've brought up the micro steps, is that I think with anything, it's like with a new business, it's like, taking care of yourself. You tend to look at this big feat in front of you. It was like, the whole saying, it's easier to look at the one step versus the whole case. I can't get that statement right. I know exactly what it's meant to be.
I hear you, but it's so true.
But it's looking at that first step versus looking at the entire staircase. Typically, look at the entire staircase, like, how can I change my life for good?
So overwhelming. Like, you're not going to end up doing anything.
It's so overwhelming. And so when you take that first step, take the walk, and then recognize that I needed that walk. Just stick with that one. Just stay in that, stay on that step until you continue to do. I'm listening to you and I'm saying these things out loud because there are things in my life that, I know better, and recognizing that you've taken those steps, and like you said, recognizing that you needed to take those steps is actually probably more important. So I appreciate you sharing that on the spot piece of advice, as if you met that person. And you meet that person every day, I'm sure, on LinkedIn. I love, we'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn too. I love how you show up there. Your energy on LinkedIn is infectious. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, is because, you connect with people on LinkedIn. I love, which has not always been the case. I've only been on LinkedIn for probably a good year or so. But there are people out there like yourself that you can connect with, and you have this, energized way about you. It's very infectious, and it makes you want to spend time in your space. So I want to say that. And I also have to say that one of the things that you do on there, there was a post you had, and for all of the listeners, make sure you go to Robyn's LinkedIn and go find this post. The post that you have about not having anything on your counter.
Oh, that was just recently. Yes.
This is recently.
Yes. What are your thoughts on that?
I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? I think I need to do that. And you had even given advice under there of like, okay, just put it in a space and then just take it out when you need it and put it back. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
Because it's like energy goes where energy flows. First off, thank you for the compliment. And I show up every day authentically as myself, and I connect with people because you're human, right? Not because of the sale. And that's a really key point with connecting on social media.
Totally.
But just, we get to show up who we are. And I'm so grateful that I have energy, because I know what it's like not to have energy.
Yeah.
And part of energy is the zen or the feng shui, or whatever you want to call it, of your house, and where you spend the most time, right? So I grew up in a house where there was stuff everywhere. My room was spotless, but everything else, and it just drove. It made me I had so much anxiety around it, because my head couldn't clear.
Yeah.
And so I knew whenever I had my own house, I would just do it differently. Right? Everyone operates differently. There's no right or wrong. Yeah. But I just feel that for me, and if you want to start one of the micro tips or steps, is that if you're not using it, put it out of sight, because out of sight, out of mind. And then you make room for new things to come into your life.
Yes.
Because you're stuck in the burnout part of, you're a nurse and you punch in, punch out, you go home, you eat, you sleep, and you're not making space for anything new. So that could be also something you mentioned earlier. You asked me, Anna, and I think, if you're living in chaos, your life is going to be chaos.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's very funny that you say that too, because I resonated with the countertop thing, because I go in waves, but you're right. Sure. It's when your space is clean and clear, is when your mindset is clean and clear, you have things to look forward to. And when you sit in a space where things are kind of all over the place, like currently my counter is like that, but I also went through my pantry, and it had been bothering me for the same reason. I just knew that this was it's my pantry. I mean, who cares, right? But it had been sitting there, and it couldn't sit still without dealing with it. And so the other day I went and I took everything out of my pantry, and I didn't throw it away, because I'm not that kind of person, but I put them all in clear. I went to Costco and got the big clear boxes and put them all in clear boxes and put it in my garage. And I actually had, I had just recently, this is so funny. I had taken some contact paper, some fancy contact paper that looked like wood, that I had done like a little spot in my kitchen. And I had some extra, and I go, you know what? I'm going to do shelves in my pantry with that extra. And I did it. And I literally only put back in my pantry the only things that I'm an empty nester now. The only things that I eat or use.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
so good.
open the pantry now, and I just have this breath of fresh air. My kids came home for the holidays, and they opened the pantry, and they were like, Mom.
Like, what happened?
They know, but they took a deep breath, and it was really refreshing to see that. So I think that when I saw that about your countertop, and I was like, okay, that's my next space, because I am in this kind of weird energy. I'm like in this transition where I had a really great 2024, and I have these goals for 2025, but there's this like, I have them, but I feel a little stuck. And I know that it has a lot to do with my space. I know that. So
100%.
I'm sure I'm not the only one here. That's why
I'm sure you're not.
Spending a lot more time on this. Yeah.
It's and being able to clean out and organize your pantry, your kitchen, your closet, whatever it is. I do that. I do my whole house. I start in different areas of the house between Christmas and New Year's. That's every year. And it's so cleansing. It's so therapeutic. And what you do is you open the space for more abundance to come into your life.
Totally.
Right? So if you're stuck, one of your self-care items could be just like what Anna did, clean out your pantry. Clean your kitchen shelves off. Clean out your closet. Clean out your desk drawer at work. And it's the little things that will bring big abundance. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, Anna, right?
Right.
And you just have so much more appreciation for your space and where you're at, and you feel better and your energy's higher.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so now everybody has a goal to clear out some space. We're either going to take a walk, sit in the sunshine, clear out a space. And when you do, will you please come back to either myself or Robyn or tag us both,
please,
and say you did it and how you feel about it. I would love to find this like chain of events happening.
Me too.
Right? How fun would that be? Yeah, it's good energy. We'll all feel great about it. So
absolutely.
Okay. So I appreciate you sharing your journey here. Do you have any other last advice on, how to make this new year, just amazing for someone who's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm exhausted, but like I'm ready. What would you say to them? And one little last piece of advice.
So one little last piece of advice is write down 6 experiences you want to have and do this year. Write them down. And then write down a date attached to them, because without a date, nothing's going to happen. It's like a wish without a plan doesn't happen. And then do them. Because when you inject joy into your life on a daily basis, but also with bigger experiences a few times a year, your energy escalates.
Totally.
You believe what's possible and what you can do for yourself. And you start to change the trajectory of your life, and you start going from existing to thriving. Existing or exhausted to energized. And make sure you write it down, do it, put a date on it, and do it. And then celebrate. That's the key that most people don't do, Anna, is celebrate.
Totally.
And then so I'm so excited for you. Lean in. You have everything you need right inside of you. And if anyone hasn't told you today, I'm proud of you and I love you.
I love it. Oh, it's so wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I could not agree more. I've put that into practice myself every year. And I actually, at Christmas time, I have a group of friends, and my gift every them is a calendar. It's a big calendar, and the only thing that goes on that calendar are all the good things that you have looking forward to. I always, any trips that we have planned, anything that's good goes on that calendar so that you can look back and celebrate it. So I love that you said that, because I
love that.
It makes a huge difference. I know for me and my friends who are not entrepreneurs just find that is helpful to them to just, look forward to a good year and look back on the fact that they, did things that they would not have done if they didn't put it down.
Absolutely. So. It's so true. So make sure you put it down and plan it and do it and celebrate.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. Okay. For those wondering, where can we find you? Where's the best place to find you?
Best place to find me is on LinkedIn and also my website, Robyn Engelson, RobynEngelson.com.
Perfect. And that will be in the show notes. So I'm sure that you will have an influx of messages from
I can't wait.
My
I'm
audience.
So excited.
Happens every time. In fact, a podcast episode went out yesterday, and I think an hour after it went out, I got a message from the person who was my guest, who said, I'm already starting to get messages. So I'm sure that will be the case for you.
Fantastic.
So, thank you for spending your time with me.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And thank you for having me. Appreciate you, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.